So this next section is, we call it living room session because we want you to be comfortable, ask Kishore questions, ask him hard questions. That's my request. We want this to be worth your time, so feel free. I know folks have been saying they're looking forward to this session, so let's get started. I see Angela's hand up. Do you want to sit here or microphone? Do you want a microphone or this?
This is good, yeah.
So let's put Kishore on the hot seat. So I'm excited that Control Case offers the one audit method. And I think that's great. And you've shared with us how you're able to collect evidence for one audit and use it for others. One of the challenges that I face is if you're not in a position where you're able to facilitate making that transition to have all of those audits with one auditing firm, is Control Case willing to look at what are some of the things that they can do with potentially working with some of the other auditors? Let's say, for example, AT&T is engaged in SOC, ISO, and PCI. And we utilize Control Case for our service provider audits. But my organization doesn't make the decision about what auditor we use for SOC and ISO. Is there a way where Control Case would be willing to work with that other auditing firm so that, you know, we can sync a line on evidence? Because you're right. Data owners, control owners throughout the organization are talking about audit fatigue. And we really need to get to a place where we really can collect once and satisfy many. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Angela. So, you know, Angela's from AT&T, and, you know, we've been a great partner last many years. You know, so just kind of laying out the background, when we talk about one audit as well as you know, when we talk about our data security rating offering, it really came out originally back in the day from our discussion with Angela, where we talked about how do we quantify, and, you know, the earlier discussion we had, which was, if you can't measure something, what is good versus bad, right? And there's a start. But to your earlier point, absolutely, you know, I think, Angela, to your question on, irrespective of which audit we kind of work with you on, you know, I think we're working a lot on many of the PCI audits. There's absolutely a way where we can use our combination of technology, people, and process to streamline your, you know, your audit process and be able to collect once and certify to many. And it is really that. It's a use of technology and process, and also integration with your internal GRC technologies, right? Because it's on one side, you're using your existing GRC technologies to collect the information. On the other side, you want to use that information in the right manner at the right time. And you know, as we work with other assessment firms as well as part of quality assurance on the back end, in kind of a more community fashion than the competition. And the consistent problem there, which we think we're starting to crack the code on, is every certification has some unique characteristic beyond just the actual control, right? SOC is over a 12-month period. PCI is a point in time. ISO has a stage 1 and stage 2 associated. HITRUST, you know, everything has like a different time zone. The third dimension is time versus, you know, the one we have definitely cracked is, here are the controls that you need to comply to all these regulations. The ones we are starting to crack and where we can work with different organizations, even if we are not auditing, is when do I want to go ask this question so that I can use it for all the 15 regulations, right? It can be too early, it can be too late. It just has to be right, right? And so that time piece, and, you know, I think our technology and a big part of where our push is going next year is exactly that, which is I ask Kishore, if I'm the CEO of Control Case, I probably have a responsibility for compliance on certain aspects. When can I be asked that question on my mobile app saying, today, if I provide this evidence, I can use it for maximizing compliance evidence and maximizing security. And so, absolutely, I mean, I think irrespective of whether we are working with any of our customers on certification, we absolutely want to provide our technology and our expertise in helping everyone, get compliant to multiple regulations and be able to rate from a data security perspective. Thank you. Go ahead, Don.
Kishore, thank you for that explanation. It answered one of my questions. So my second question is regarding the security rating. I noticed the data collection include logs. If your SIM or your is outsourced already, and how then could that log data be brought back into, I guess, well, it's already coming back into the company, but could that log data be used with the security rating process, and how?
And you said I missed the SIEM data is being outsourced, is that?
Correct.
Yeah. So if I guess you guys, if you have multiple locations, let me start, if you have multiple locations, they're all reporting data to, a set of technologies and appliances that then correlated at some point. Whatever, the pivot point is wherever your log collection lies, right? So in almost every case, there is a spot where all the logs are coming to.
Correct.
Right, and whether it is, if you're outsourcing it, someone will give you an appliance, or you will have a log management system. There's some place where every organization, even if they outsource this or have it inside, are having triangulation, are having data come there.
Right.
So our data security rating really relies on getting data from that point, right? So if you're collecting, if you have 6 different choke points and then it goes out to different people, there's definitely a syslog server somewhere. The most common thing, the one thing that's common and the most richest source of data across the globe really is syslog. Everybody, you can people call it different things. Some call it big data and all these different things, but everybody is collecting data at certain points from a correlation perspective, and then doing different things with that data. And so that is the same data we will use for our data security rating.
Got it. Okay.
At that point, yeah.
So what do you say to the idea that it can actually be a good thing to use different audit firms for different audits? For instance, we use Control Case for PCI and HITRUST. We use BSI for ISO. And our approach is our management's thinking, at least, is that different perspectives bring a better sort of audit or security in depth. As the guy who gathers evidence, I would love to just, answer one questionnaire and be done with it all. But, as it is right now, management still likes seeing, the BSI on our ISO cert and stuff like that. Could you talk to maybe the benefit of this one questionnaire, one audit firm, or do you still see value in using different firms?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's so this ties back to, again, a lot of us, and us and some of our competition, right? We're working on the back end on what we call quality assurance, right? And with quality assurance, what we're trying to solve is, at the end of the day, why are we doing all this? It's to reduce breaches, right? I mean, as you filter this down, we're doing compliance, all these are programs. what it comes down to is reducing breaches. To your question, specifically to your question on whether it is good to use multiple audit firms, I kind of put that background there, but it is a to be solved question. I think there is one side of the house which says the more we know your IT environment, the better partners we can be, right? Because, and getting to know your IT environment is no easy task. It takes, I mean, it really takes years, right? It takes the same person multiple years to go through it to be able to identify it. It takes, as we're kind of going through it, it takes two sets of skills to get to the right answer, right? One set of skills is who is the person who's managing the process, right? Your auditor. Absolutely. I think there's value, whether it's an audit firm or an auditor, I don't know the answer, but there's value in looking at it from a different way. And that's just value in life, right? Like you get someone who looks at world from a different way, you find something new, right? There's that. And so I think there's validity in, again, I don't know whether it's independent audit firm or it's an independent view or it's a quality assurance, but there's some place for an independent eye to look at scoping, as what Pramod was talking about. Make sure we haven't missed something, right? Because the best of us can have best intentions, but we can miss things. So that's the more, more consultative, the part which actually I think you actually want a different eye, but you also want consistency. Then how do we get from there to finite yes and no answers, which is, well, this is vulnerability, it's bad. These are logs that are coming in, are you getting it or no? And then, so you've defined the scope. Now, once you have defined the scope, we really believe that beyond that, once you have identified this is your environment, this is your scope, these are your assets, doesn't matter which audit firm you get, if technology is auditing technology, we should all come to the same result, which is as good as the technology that's using to audit technology. So I think there's, to your point, there's definitely value, and most audit regulations require independent quality assurance because of that. I don't know whether the answer is the right answer is whether it's a separate auditor or it's a separate audit firm, but you have to balance that with how long does it take to get up to speed to complex environments, right? And I think the answer is still being thought, but I would say generally the more people looking at your environment, the better, right? You can't go wrong with multiple opinions if if you're trying to do right by yourself, right? If I can't go wrong saying if I have two auditors looking at me, they'll probably tell me two different things. Now I don't want 5 because then I'll be only spending my time on audits, right? But whether it's 1 or 2, it's probably a good mix. I think a couple is a good mix. 5 is probably too many. 1 is probably too little. So somewhere in there. But that's just my thoughts.
Different auditors within the same firm.
That's right.
And there's value of having one auditing firm.
Yeah.
Because to your point, it takes so long for an auditor to get up to speed. And so I personally think it makes more sense having one auditing firm, but different auditors within that firm. It's so many efficiencies that you can gain from that.
Right, absolutely. And good audit firms will inherently put a process where an auditor, for lack of a better word, an auditor cannot miss things because there's a whole quality assurance process which automatically looks at many things, right? So we, 8 out of 10 times, right? People put, all of us go and we audit companies, we take the data, we think we are good, we submit it to QA, and they come back and say, well, no, you missed these 15 things, right? Which, a good audit firm will, to your point, absolutely. I think absolutely, you got to have multiple people look at it, and a good audit firm will actually put a process to ensure that the main auditor, right, who knows your environment, because if someone knows your environment in and out, getting a new auditor 5 years from now will take you back literally a couple of years, right? I mean, you just can't get a better outcome because that's human nature. It's too complicated. It just takes time. So I think the audit firm needs to figure out how they operationalize the process of, and both your questions, I think it really comes down to accuracy. If you're getting accurate results, then who cares, right? Like if you're getting accurate results, then whether it's one audit or the other, the key is not to miss things. And that's very key in our industry is, if you look at, every day what I think about, right? On the left side is operations, which is, how do we do this more efficiently? The right side of it, which is a completely separate group, is quality assurance. We want to do it in the most efficient manner while being right. It doesn't help to be extremely efficient and miss things, right? And so it's two different tasks that have to be balanced. And I think in all our industries, that there are two really different tasks, right? Because we fundamentally in our industry where efficiency is important, but not at the expense of accuracy. If you're missing accuracy, then what's the point in being efficient? Because you missed the goal over there, right? And so to both your point, I mean, whether it's the new auditor, a different look, there's absolutely value in aiming for accuracy.
Hi, Kishore. So as you said before, PCI is point in time. And in general, like audits are specific to a time period, and we know that a good percentage of organizations fall out of compliance fairly quickly after certification. Would you say that data security ratings resolves this issue?
Data security rating puts the behavioral patterns that we haven't looked in the past into this mix. So I won't quite go and say we solve it 100%, but we're getting very close, right? Because when we talk about, let's contrast PCI to the data security rating. At PCI, point in time, are you compliant or not? Is this thing fixed? Data security rating, we look at when was the vulnerability found in the last year and how quickly was it fixed? So if we found 100 vulnerabilities and 99 of them were fixed in 3 days and one of them was fixed in a month, that's a better outcome than another company where 100 vulnerabilities were found and it took 3 months to fix it. So we're looking at behavioral patterns and operations more than a point in time, right? And so the security rating, we're actually going beyond, it really is human nature and operations than a point in time fact. And the fact is, if you have been fixing things quickly, you're probably going to fix things quickly in the future.
Just to add on that also,
Yeah.
we also do rating, and mostly we did that to get funding out of the senior management, right? So we did the rating and presented to the board of directors, and they said, this is our 3-year plans. And at the end of the presentation, they said, can we reduce this 3 years into 1.5 years? We want to fix things. And that rating showed them how things work. So we have been every year doing this rating and presenting it to the board and then see how our needle is going up kind of thing. And we get funding based on that.
Exactly, and that's a great point, right? You guys are doing it internally, and to your earlier point,
We're doing third party, not control.
okay,
We're doing third party.
third party, but you guys are using ratings as a method to present measurement, right? Metrics, and I think you guys will, because that's important. It doesn't matter which company you use and how and what tools you use. Measurement is important because we are coming from an industry where if you don't measure, how do you know what to spend, right? And what are you spending on, for good or bad? Well, I see a lot of hands there in terms of, is it lunchtime? Okay. Well, again, thank you. We'll open up these blinds so we can see the ocean view while we eat lunch. Thank you again for this interactive session this morning. I appreciate it. Thank you.